Today we are breaking down, previewing, and some of my predictions and insight into the Arnold Pro Strongwoman. It's in its fourth year. This is the fourth year that they have had a pro women's division at the Arnold. When I was competing in the sport, I was told there would never be a pro women's division, and now it keeps growing. I love it. You guys should support it. Definitely check it out. Some of these athletes are amazing. They deserve as much spotlight as the men, and I try to do my part to do that. So I'm going to cheat, and Laura Anderson, a former competitor at the Arnold Pro, wrote up this amazing article on startingstrongman.com, and if you hate looking at my face or hearing me talk, you can just go to startingstrongman.com and read that. So I'm going to read a lot of what she wrote off of here. She detailed the competitors, and it's just better than anything I'd say, so I'm just going to steal it. Well, the Pro Strongmen have long been a draw on the big stage at the Arnold. This is only the fourth year for the Pro Strong women at the Arnold, and they're raising the bar by leaps and bounds every year, easily carrying 300-pound plus Husafels, repping out 220-pound axles and 500-plus pound deadlifts. These ladies are putting up numbers that many in the sport would envy. This year's event lineup includes a 140-pound clean and press for reps on a 10-inch Rogue Monster dumbbell, last woman standing 240-pound stone over bar with no tacky. Don't know why that's a rule, but it makes it more challenging. A 525-pound truck tire deadlift, I think that's from 18 inches. A 500-pound flip on what I think is going to be a tire flip. Probably a little light for this contest, but anyways. And a 525-pound into 230-pound farmer's walk medley. Although the Arnold Pro Strongwoman event itself is not weight class, the competitors are qualified throughout the year from all three divisions, meaning lightweight, middleweight, and heavyweight. So some of these ladies lifting these weights competed and qualified below 140 pounds. That's what, 63 kilos? Might be off by a kilo. Sure, they've got a few months to beef up if they want, but it's doubtful that anybody is pulling a Captain America and loading on 50 pounds of lean muscle mass overnight. If you notice that some of them look awfully small up there, it's because they are. In a lineup that includes some of the strongest heavyweight women in the world, there are two lightweights that were invited and agreed to compete for the love of all that's holy. If you see Christina Bangla or Jessica Thieker this year, treat them like the brave rock stars that they are. Bow down to their awesomeness. So the competitors and how they qualify. Primary qualifier for the Arnold Pro Strongwoman is the annual Strongest Woman in the World competition, where the top two finishers from each of the three weight divisions earn invitations. Additionally, the defending Arnold Pro Strongwoman champion is invited, along with one predetermined spot from each of the Arnold Sports Festivals in Australia, South Africa, and Spain. This year the spot was the middleweight winner from Australia, the lightweight winner from South Africa, and the heavyweight winner from Spain. Finally, the middleweight and heavyweight winners of the Arnold Amateur in the prior year are qualified as well. So, yeah. So that's 15 total qualifying spots given out, with the assumption that some will decline and the goal of having 10 women on stage. If the competitor list drops below 10, then alternates will be invited based on placing at Strongest Woman in the World. Here are the 10 ladies who make up the lineup for 2020. First, we have Olga Lysychuk of the Ukraine. She was the 2017 Strongest Woman in the World and holds 2 Guinness World Records, no joke. She's the fastest triple watermelon thigh crusher in the world. She also held a record for doing 50 reps of sumo deadlift at 70 kilos, since strongmen don't really acknowledge that sumo deadlifts or anything over 15 reps actually exists. This one has gotten some attention. But let's take a moment to appreciate that Olga sets a high bar and is well accustomed to being in the spotlight. If you follow any of her social media accounts, you'll see that she's constantly making appearances in Eastern European game shows and talk shows. Their media celebrates strength athletes while we're over here just watching our serial killer documentaries. She's a professional athlete. She travels and competes constantly, and she isn't fazed by flying across the world for a show. She's proud of her title, and she's here to defend it. She won last year. I think I skipped that part. Danielle Ye of the United States. So It was her 17 reps on the 175-pound axle press at Nationals in 2018 that first made us think, this lady might be okay at pressing some things. Just in case we missed the memo, she went on to win the log press in the overhead medley at the Arnold Amateur, along with the deadlift, lest we deem her just a presser. For the overall middleweight amateur world champion title and qualifying her for the 2020 Arnold Pro Strongwoman. As if qualifying at an amateur show wasn't quite proof enough that she belongs on the pro stage, Dani dropped in and casually snagged the middleweight strongest woman in the world title in August, so now she's double qualified, just in case one falls through. She also set a fish tossing record at that show in supreme display of salmon slinging that impressed the entire Alaska State Fair. Salmon slinging alone doesn't pay the bills, though, so Dani also works as a Dallas police officer. She's a middleweight woman with a 285-pound log press. That's the world record for any weight class. She's definitely not a one-trick pony, and she's perfectly capable of shaking things up in her first trip to the Arnold Pro Strongwoman stage. She's got an impressive support system. Trains at Metroflex Fort Worth, a well-known name in the strongman world, is sponsored by Cerberus Strength USA and coached by the reigning 105-kilo America's Strongest Man, Terry Rady. She's coming in hot, so bring your popcorn and get ready for a show. She's definitely one to mix it up and could possibly podium despite being a middleweight and not as big as some of the other competitors. She's super strong and pretty new to the sport, crazy enough. I mean, she's pressed more on a log than any woman ever has, ever. Anna Harjapa, I'm sure I messed that one all up, from Sweden. She's a long-time amateur competitor. She's competed at the Arnold Amateur 4 times, but this is her first trip to the pro stage. She earned her pro card and her qualifying spot by winning the heavyweight woman division in 2019 Arnold Amateur. Living the strongman dream, she trains and competes around the world with her husband, Magnus. She also works in a grocery store, which is the second half of the strongman dream. She has 3 teenage sons, and I can only imagine they're perfectly behaved for fear of bringing down the wrath of Sweden's strongest woman. In addition to her 4 Arnold trips, she's competed in World's Strongest Woman 4 times and won Sweden's Strongest Woman in 2016. She's no stranger to travel and big shows and will feel right at home in the Arnold Pro lineup. Anna holds a world record for the 335 kilo / 738 pound silver dollar deadlift, which should translate well to this year's 525 pound truck tire deadlift. Jessica Fithen of the United States, one of my personal clients who I've worked with for numerous years, is up next. How this goes from Laura's description. Let me just go ahead and say that I can't accurately summarize Jessica in a strictly PG or even PG-13 or R article, as she is decidedly NC-17 personality. You're going to have to follow her, that's at Fithy_Fithen, to truly understand the fascinating combination of adult hilarity, heavy training, and disdain for stupid that make her Filthy Fithian. I mean, she got famous for a Facebook post of some seriously suspicious sausages, and then rode that wave of fame right into a 2018 heavyweight Arnold Amateur win and the 2019 Strongest Woman in the World title. Jessica pressed a 275-pound log, which was a new world record at Static Monsters, which was a world record for like 90 minutes before, at a different Static Monsters contest, Danielle Ye had to go and press 285. So for a short time, we did something that we had set to do as coach and client, was to hold the log press world record. Short-lived, but still accomplished it. So you have the two women that have pressed more than anyone else in the log press competing this weekend, or next weekend, at the Arnold. Next up, we have Christina Bangla of the United States, Instagram at Eat Cake Lift Heavy. She's hands down the most decorated lightweight American strongwoman, 2016 lightweight champion at Pro Women's Worlds, 2017 lightweight national champion for both Strongman Corporation and United States Strongman, 2017 lightweight world's strongest woman, 2018 lightweight Arnold Amateur World Champion. Seriously, she has more titles than some people have teeth. Athlete to the core, Christina owns a gym in/strong and is sponsored by SBD. In her first trip to the Arnold Pro Strongwoman stage, she is one of The 2 lightweight qualifiers thrown in with the big kids to lift heavyweight weights against women from all 3 divisions in front of a crowd. Let that sink in. How many people would willingly go up 2 weight classes against the strongest competitors in the world on a stage in front of a crowd of thousands who have no idea about qualifications or weight classes, unless you watched this or read this, and just expect you to lift like the heavyweights? Talk about volunteering as tribute. I'm going to take liberty of speaking for all of the lightweights out there and say that if anyone can make us look good, Christina can, and we're glad to have her up there representing the lightweights. She's definitely a great athlete, and if there was a front carry in here for distance, she'd probably beat everyone. I mean, I remember there was at Nationals a few years ago. She just kept going. She beat everyone by like 100 feet on a Husfeld carry. It was crazy. Brooke Souza of the United States, currently holding the title for America's Strongest Woman. Brooke returns for her 3rd trip to the Arnold Pro Strongwoman stage. Born, raised, and still living in Columbus, Ohio, so she doesn't have to go anywhere. She has a serious home field advantage. She's a full-time coach and personal trainer who gave up running marathons to commit herself to strength sports, and it seemed to have worked out. In her 5 years of lifting, she spent 4 of them competing at the Arnold, 1 as an amateur. So that I'm going to say that's a pretty impressive ratio. She says that her strongest event is yoke, which bodes well for the yoke/farmers medley on the pro stage this year. She's no slouch at the other events either, and she loves a crowd, so she'll be in her element at the Arnold. Brooke also founded the M Foundation, an organization that provides strength training and coaching for young people with autism. Between that, coaching full-time, raising her 2 daughters, and keeping up with her own training, she's a busy lady. Still, she makes a point to compete and support the pro women's class. She's been a perennial competitor in every Strongest Woman in the world and America's Strongest Woman since the class was founded in 2016. Brittney Cornelius of the United States. She's back from injury and she's ready for prime time again. Brittney was the 2016 Strongest Woman in the world, the 2017 America's Strongest Woman, and then rather dramatically tore her Achilles during a yoke run at America's Strongest Woman in 2018. She made her comeback for the 2019 Strongest Woman in the world to qualify for 2020 Arnold Pro, what we're talking about today. In Kokomo, Indiana, apparently not the one that the Beach Boys sang about, she is also the world's strongest FedEx handler. If you've met Brittney, she probably didn't say much. If you follow her online, you know that she loves art and metal music. My rating is, quote, a delightful blend of muscle and tattoos that sits smiling sweetly in the corner until it's time to step on stage and crush souls. And she also has one hell of a deadlift. It's over 600 pounds, I believe, or right around there. Bayley Dushane, Canada. She was the youngest Canadian to earn her pro card at 21 years old. She was the middleweight champion of Ireland's Strongest Woman in 2016 and qualified for the Arnold Pro Strongwoman with a second place finish in the 2019 Strongest Woman in the World. She's competed in 6 different countries, so a little jaunt down to Idaho is hardly daunting for her. She works as a massage therapist in her gym, so she knows a couple things about muscles and doesn't have much of a commute to get back from work to training every day. Yoke is her favorite event, which seems to be a theme among this year's competitors. What's wrong with you ladies? I'm expecting some blazing performances. We'll have to wait and see how her 700-pound frame deadlift translates into the truck-tired deadlift on stage. Sounds like a good sign. She says she's pretty okay at lifting, but at these weights, she's mostly here to set some PRs and have fun. Can't argue with that, but we're excited to see what she can do. At the pro level takes, well, a lot of competing. You generally have to qualify to get to a show where you can have a chance to win a pro card, and then there are specific pro qualifiers for certain shows. And you can't just skip in from out of nowhere to snag a big one. It's one of the things I appreciate about our pro system. It takes a lot of commitment, and there isn't much room for a one-hit wonders. Jess has been at all 4 Strongest Woman in the World shows. I personally saw her flaming. They joke about being lightweights, fighting it out for 8th, 9th, and 10th place in the Arnold Pro, but Jess actually started working up through the middleweights last year for a 7th place finish. She's the reigning lightweight strongest woman in the world. Her conventional deadlift is dangerously close to 500 pounds. We all saw her split jerk a 220-pound axle on stage last year at the Arnold twice. Every time someone congratulates me, Andrea Thompson of England. She won Britain's Strongest Woman 4 times. She's the 2018 World's Strongest Woman. She's also a wife, a mother of 2, and a college assessor. Second trip to the Arnold Pro Strongwoman stage, and she made it to the podium in her debut. With yoke and deadlift among her best events, 2020 could be her year to top the podium. She's definitely a contender for the title, and she's not flying across the pond just for fun, although she is fun. My favorite quote from this unapologetically muscular and strong woman is super fast at any moving event, so yeah, watch her in the yoke. She's actually pretty good at everything. In the yoke, Farmers Medley. On to the schedule of events. We have Friday, March 6th from 9:30 to 11, the Rogue Strength Stage, a 500-pound tire flip, followed by from noon to 1, the Rogue Yoke and Farmers Walk Carry Medley. At 9 p.m. on Friday, March 6th, we have the Rogue Monster Dumbbell Press. That's a 140-pound dumbbell for reps. Saturday, March 7th, 12:30 to 2:30 on the Rogue Strength Stage. They have the tire deadlift, followed by the last woman standing Atlas Stone over bar. And that's a really cool event where they're going to go from 10th versus 9th. They're going to do the stone back and forth to each other like we've seen at the last man standing, in Worlds, etc. But the difference here is it's going to end up being scored based on your total reps. So you could have, been in 7th or something, but done like 20 total reps, and who ended up being the last woman standing did 17. You won. So that's it'll look cool. It'll have that effect for the crowd, but it won't mess up the standings in any way because it's being scored in a traditional manner. But I think it'll be a really fun event to watch. So if you're around at the Arnold, I would definitely check that out. People are going to be going crazy. I'm excited for this. I would love for the pro side of the women and the pro Arnold Strongwoman to grow. In my opinion, for it to continue to grow, I think it needs to be more in line with how the men's side is done. Even if they did the same events, I don't see there's any reason why these women aren't also doing the Wheel of Pain instead of some generic 500-pound tire flip. I mean, come on, Rogue, you spent how much money? I can't even begin to guess how much it cost to make the Wheel of Pain. And you're just going to have like 10 people do it once a year for who knows how long. This is the second year. Let the women do it too. Are you worried that if some of them do okay, it'll make it seem less impressive for the men? That's a pretty silly thing to worry about. But I think that's probably the reason why. And I wish the qualifiers, you saw the spot where I was explaining the qualifiers. It's like, at this show, a middleweight one, and this show, a little lightweight qualified. Just make it, here's the pro class, lightweights, middleweights, heavyweights, anyone can sign up. Whoever wins that at the Arnold Australia qualifies, whoever wins that at the Arnold Europe qualifies, etc., just like the men. I think if you tried to make the event similar, like why aren't they just let them do the elephant bar? They should just do the same events as the men, have the same qualifying standards, and I think it would legitimize the women's side a lot more. I think out of these events, Olga is going to be tough to beat. She's so well-rounded. I think Jessica Fithen's going to mix it up. It just really depends on her grip in the farmer's walk, which is improving a lot. I think a couple of the lightweights are going to be up there on some of the events, like even, it is an 18-inch deadlift. Some of them are shorter and some of them have good deadlifts, so it's an advantage for them. 18-inch deadlift, it does help to be shorter when you can get it where the bar's starting above your knee. It's a huge advantage versus if you're a taller person, it starts below the knee. But they might not have that same advantage when it goes to the stone. That's how strongman works. Andrea Thompson's going to be right up there. What's going to be a factor is that there's some rogue record or breaker events, which I will be going into in a future video. And depending on, some of these athletes are also doing those. So that, if they're going for a max elephant bar deadlift, which is one of them, if they're going for the 300-pound log press, the max circus dumbbell for a record, which is there, if you break one of those records, you make more money than winning this show. So you could break two of those records, make 10 grand, and I think you get like 4 or 6 for winning this show. It makes sense to do, but adding that stress on to an already heavy weekend is going to affect some of the athletes. I don't know exactly who is signed up for what as far as record breakers, but that's a factor as well. I think Danielle Ye is right up there and has a shot at being, up there with anyone in these classes and getting on the podium. Brittney Cornelius is a superb deadlifter. Brooke Souza can fly with a yoke. This is a extremely stacked lineup. If you ask why isn't this person there, why isn't that person there, specifically like World's Strongest Woman, Donna Moore, she didn't do the qualifiers. She's doing the Rogue Record Breakers, and again, there's more money to do just one of those events, so it kind of makes sense to do those. If you're from an athlete perspective, it's kind of like what I talked with Thor. Can you do one event, go out there, you only have to train for that one event, get $5,000, or do 5 events over a show and maybe make 4? What would you do? And plus, there's not as much support for flying all these, women from sponsors to all of these qualifiers, which are all over the world. So it's a little harder to do as an athlete. So I understand why some of the athletes didn't do the qualifiers, but hopefully, it keeps growing. It's gotten better every year, in my opinion, and I think it just needs to line up more with how the men compete. Thanks for watching. I'm Kalle Beck. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 10,000. Hopefully I'm by 10,000 by the time this video comes out. And for all of your strongman training news, go to startingstrongman.com and go to store.startingstrongman.com for more info and products to buy.